Welcome, guys, to Why Not with Shan. Thanks for joining us today. We all go way back. We're all friends. We all were in Wichita at one point. The interesting thing about us is we work for different manufacturing sectors, different manufacturing or operations related companies, and we're really good at what we do. Right. And each time I speak to you guys, I learn something new about manufacturing, the sector itself, the different processes or operations, leadership, trends in manufacturing, where it's headed, the future of manufacturing, and things like that. So I figured, you know what? I may not be the only one with those questions. There may be others out there who want to understand more about operations, manufacturing, the different industries that they can get into. And I figured we'll just have a regular conversation. And before we get started, I want to take a minute to introduce each of you. So if I can start with Thisath. Thisath, you work as a manufacturing equipment engineer at Tesla. So you basically work in the EV and automotive manufacturing space. Welcome to the show. Then we have Bobby. Bobby, you work for Textron Aviation, so you work in the aviation industry and you're into supply chain, right? And Polo, you work as a project manager at Coke Specialty Plant Services. And I understand you guys work on construction and installation projects. Arvind, you're not new to the show or to the listeners. You work for Hunter Douglas, which as a lean leader, and you guys are into window covering manufacturing. So there's just a lot of wealth of knowledge in operations and manufacturing in our group. I just want to get it out there. Welcome to the show, guys. And as I kick it off, I want to start with lean. I'm a lean guy, and I just want to start with a conversation on lean. Lean is reducing waste to improve a process. It's not just manufacturing, it can be in any industry, right? So I want to understand from each of you how lean your workspace or industry is. If Arvind, you can kick it off, that'll be fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Siva. And first of all, thank you for having me for the second time on your show. It's exciting to be back and to see all of you here again. But I think one of the main discussions that you brought up earlier on the importance of lean in a manufacturing environment or organization, right? And I think I've mentioned this before. One of the most common misconceptions of lean is just it being a tool of cost savings, or how do we eliminate costs from a dollar standpoint. But it's important to understand uh, the role that lean plays in creating a lean culture, continuous improvement, whatever we want to call it, and enhancing the environment of the company, and also to make sure that um, the understanding of lean is applied in every levels of the organization. Right from top down, we understand what's the importance of lean and why. How is it impacting our day-to-day work, and also the mechanics of the organization? So, answering your question, Siva, and we can dive deep into this as we go along. It is more of a culture that needs to be established, not just at the executive level, but every level within the organization, so that improvements can be driven by not just one person, by the entirety of the ecosystem within the organization.
Is lean a focus in your industry?
Absolutely, and I think it's important as well because when we have a manufacturing environment with large large volume and a lot of people involved, it is important to have a lean environment established. Not just from a lining standpoint, but we want to make sure that we're consistently striving to be better and better every day, and it's important to have a lean, the environment of being part of that, so that people understand the importance of it, and everyone is striving to continuously improve day by day and the work that they do on a daily basis.
That's really nice. That's perfect. So if we switch gears and go into EV manufacturing and then that industry, just the automotive manufacturing sector in general, Tasat, if you can speak for that sector, and is lean something that they look into? Is lean a focus in your industry?
Yeah, Siva, thank you for inviting me. Lean is a plays a big part in our industry. We might not call it lean, but it's always it's a kind of continuous improvement, a way of reducing costs, labor, and also so some things we are like in the designing equipment or new processes. We come up with specifications required, but in the long run, we might not require these specifications. So we try to delete some of the specifications and
Right.
make the system more for like cost effective. Like that's a
Makes sense.
common thing we practice. Yeah.
No, that's right. I mean, reducing waste, right? That's all it is. If something is non-value added, that's exactly what we do with lean, right? We don't have to coin it as lean, but it's just reducing that process. Is that the same for you, Polo, as well?
Yes, it is. But uh, my line of work is a little bit different. So I mainly deal with, manpower. There's a lot of manpower and
Right.
spark machines. It's very minimal. It's just really hand tools that I work with. So
Hmm.
my job consists of uh, gathering a group, and we work mainly with refineries, also their chemical companies, and get them through turnaround with doing
Hmm.
maintenance, changing equipment and stuff. So I'm not a lean guy, but you guys are, and I've learned a lot just listening to you and Arvind. And one of the things that, how lean ties into my role and what I do is, for example, is, making sure I set the people with the best, they have a comparative advantage to do the right
Right.
jobs. If this guy's better at assembling specific
Yes.
equipment, we put him at that. Another way is the hand tools. Make sure they have the right tools for the job.
Exactly.
Don't skip out on quality on tools.
Right.
It's in the long run that may cost you. But again, I'm not a lean guy, but it's definitely applicable to my job, which is
No, it's
it's
very
more.
interesting that you said that, right?
Mhm,
Because sorry to cut you short. You spoke about tools, and I
mhm.
think that's an important part of it. If you don't give the people the right tools to work with, they're not going to be efficient. So just helping them with the right tools is a big portion of lean as well, right? Yeah. So, Bobby, so in the supply chain world, you guys are always looking at how to improve, maybe you're looking at different suppliers, cutting costs without sacrificing on quality and things like that. So, are you guys a little into that as well? Do you guys look at waste elimination a little bit?
Siva, thank you for having me on. Appreciate you letting me join and learn from the rest of the friends on this group chat tonight. I'll speak to lean more as a process standpoint and supply chain.
Right.
Uh, we we our mantra is continuous improvement, and so we'll start at the top as far as constantly evaluating the products that we put out to support our customers. The aviation industry is constantly changing. We have to always try to be one step ahead of the competition as far as what the customers are looking for, industry trends, the newest technologies, for example, what's the latest and greatest way to wirelessly connect to the internet while you're in the sky? Latest cockpit software upgrades, for example. And so we're constantly looking at that continuous improvement
Makes sense.
to put out the best product for our customers, but also at a process standpoint. So I work
Okay.
in new program development. So I'm part of the team who works in sourcing and
Right.
program management for clean sheets and what we call block points, which is taking a current model and revising it and an upgrade or a refresh. And
Right.
so when you're constantly looking at new products and new block points, you have to continuously improve because some of the steps are the same as far as project management standpoint goes. For example, we have gates
Hmm.
that the program releases in prior to entering the service for the customer. So we're constantly looking at ways to improve processes as well, just to streamline that new product to the customer
Right.
base.
Right. No, that's fantastic. And if I can speak for my industry as well, I think lean plays a major role in our industry. We're constantly and especially because now I'm in the data center space as well. It is a very fast growing industry, so we can only keep up. I mean, I think it's true to any industry. You can only keep up if you're really good at what you're doing, if you have very minimal wastes and you're constantly improving, right? So lean plays a major role in my industry as well, to sum it up. And it feels like, just talking to all of you guys, industries may not term it as lean, but we are all constantly looking at reducing some sort of lean waste. So that's perfect. Um, my next question, Polo, you spoke a little about your industry and then the dependency on people. So my next question to all of you guys, how people dependent is your industry, or has it started uh, moving more into an automated world? Um, anyone of you want to go first? Is yours people dependent or more machine dependent? What kind of industry is it?
I mean, I can go first, Siva, on that. Um, for me personally, I think the importance of this is there has to be a, a significant balance between both humans and the other part of this, which is either automation, artificial intelligence, whatever we want to call it, right? I think it's important to have that balance. There are processes, for example, repeatable processes or processes that are high risk or processes that may not require too much human talent or stuff, or repeatable tasks. Those are the tasks that we can identify as things that we can automate. That way, we can better use our human resources that in areas that require more technical expertise, right? And with the rise of artificial intelligence and a lot of these automated systems, it's definitely going to help us as an industry to definitely bring it up to the next level. But I think there always needs to be human involvement to drive the mission of the company and if we're talking about lean, right? Lean being a culture, I'm a firm believer that it has to be, a person driving lean culture within an organization rather than just, a machine or a system telling, hey, this is week 2, you need to organize a Kaizen event in this area. Because a huge part of lean is getting people excited about what we do, right? Because people are not going to learn if they don't get excited about the things that we're doing. So it's important to have an important balance between that. And as mentioned, more repeatable tasks, high risk. We should definitely look into options. It'll be a perfect example for options that we can automate going in the future. But things that require a change in culture, driving a mission of the company, or even, I guess, holding people accountable or driving a team. So things like that, I think, will definitely require human involvement. But I think it'll be a significant balance on both sides.
Makes sense. Makes sense. How
I
about you,
think
Thisath?
yeah, automation plays a huge part in our like company or industry. Like almost most of the processes are automated. Uh, because we have seen like we have semi-automated production lines in parallel to like fully automated lines. We have seen like there's a lot of when people get involved, there's a lot of errors there. They might not place they might send a fixture with a part inside the machine. So there's a lot of variability. Or like they might not twist a certain wire in a certain way. And it gives a lot of variability. But by using machines, we are able to like have that accuracy on like uh, what to expect, and also it also help us like save a lot of labor.
100%. No, that makes a lot
But
of
this
sense.
also adds adding more equipment and automation. You're also adding more overhead in terms of engineers. You need more engineers and also technicians that are needed to support these machines and also improve the machines.
Makes sense. So it almost feels like automation helps when you're working on a repeatable process and just to be extremely good at it. without having any quality issues. But you're even with automation, you're not technically replacing human labor entirely because you're just needing more people, but of a different skill set. That's what it looks like from what you're saying.
Yeah, we have to constantly upskill them. That's
Yep.
something we do at our company. We have like associates. They come in. If they like to learn more, we teach them. Like we have certain courses on site that we give them the opportunity to upskill themselves, so they can go to becoming technicians, or maybe they can even go further into management, engineering,
Right.
or like yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. How about you, Polo?
For my side, I think it's a very long time before, and there's any sort of automation of machine uh
Mm,
takes over or the line of job that we're doing.
mm,
Since it's a lot of trades work and the
right.
setting's never the same, the clearances are never the same. But I do see, value of AI come into play when it comes to planning. Make sure that you can organize all your resources, when to order equipment and stuff like that. Also, probably in quality control,
Mm,
if we can, recognizing patterns and knowing when something's off and on
makes
on
sense.
specific equipment. I think that's probably where we'll see it first, but in the end, it's given to the line of where it's mainly trades work that I do. It'd
Right.
be a very long time before any sort of automation
Ah,
takes hold.
that's a very, very interesting perspective. I think trades work are highly skilled labor.
Hmm.
It's going to take a while before automation really takes over, right? And I'm also interested in knowing, so when we speak about automation, right, it's not just machines. These days, I'm like completely, my mind is blown with what Microsoft is doing with their Power Tools package, be it Power BI, Power Automate, just Power Forms, just that whole tool set. It it gives you a whole new perspective or a way to look at the data. It makes it easy to collect data, and visualize it, problem solve with those data points and visuals. So, Bobby, I'm wondering if you guys would use those power tools a lot in your industry.
Thank you for the question, Siva. We use Power BI dashboards quite a bit. It started off just in the supply chain world. And in supply chain, we have something called big data. So there's a problem with our company, and I'm sure other companies in the industries as well. We're pulling data from various different sources. For example, our company uses SAP as
Hmm.
well as other just various company produced softwares and just softwares that you can purchase out in the marketplace. But you have to have a way to clearly organize that data. And
Right.
so in the beginning, we use Power BI in the supply chain sense.
Hmm.
So primarily procurement activities. And so what it does is it takes data that's already there and helps you analyze it and put it into one place and kind of break it down and get the information that you're looking for. For example, we track inventory, open orders, if there's what we call pull-ins or push-outs, exception messages. So if there's a change in the schedule and there's a disconnect between what our MRP system is showing versus PO orders, we're able to track supplier performance, quality rejections. So we use it quite a bit. And from
Right.
there, our company has grown it. For our M&P department, for example, tooling, we can now go in and the tooling department's able to prioritize tooling work orders. And so it's
Mm,
something that's grown quite a bit. And
100%.
I think it provides more transparency and
Mm,
opportunities to collaborate between different departments too. So, for example, I may not have had that visibility into when a tool is going to release,
right.
so that the follow up engineering requirements can release and an order can be placed. And so we use it quite a bit, and it's streamlined a lot of processes.
Makes a lot of sense. That is fantastic. So my next question then would be, if you go back a couple of years, go back to the COVID era, I was working in a very different manufacturing industry then, but it truly helped me understand the importance of supply chain. And and since then I've been following supply chain trends quite a bit and things like that. So my question would be, are we out of the weed now? How have supply chain disruptions come down a lot in the US? What are your thoughts?
So I think there's always going to be supply chain issues, but in general, if you compare where we're at today versus the middle of the pandemic, we're in a completely different position than we were before. On-time deliveries are up. We're having
Hmm.
fewer material shortages and obsolescences,
Right.
but also the logistics side of the supply chains is back to where we need to be also. So we're not having all the ships being lost in transit or port issues. And so I don't think we're out of the weeds completely. There's always going to
Hmm.
be some kind of supply chain challenge,
Hmm.
but we can take the lessons learned from COVID
Right.
and in the end make your company better. For example, me personally, it taught me to strengthen relationships with suppliers and just have more visibility into their supply chain. So not just look at first tier suppliers, but second and third tier suppliers. Build that relationship up and
Right.
just work on your crisis management skills for the company and just have backup plans.
Yep. So you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, basically. Right.
Correct.
Yeah. So, and lessons learned from COVID. I'm wondering because I feel like I'm starting to see this. Is US reducing its dependence on China and looking for more support from neighboring countries within North America? I'm starting to see Mexico playing an active role in supporting manufacturing in the US. Is that a true statement? Is that a result of the COVID scenario? What do you guys think?
I think it's not just COVID, but also geopolitics.
Hmm.
Um, just
100%.
good. The adversary, aspect US and China have plays a
Right.
big part in that.
Right. And I also think the regulations mandate that if you have to sell any product as made in the US, a certain portion of it has to still be made in the US, right? That's the good part. So then we're able to take advantage of the geographical advantage we have with these neighboring countries, get some stuff from them, but still keep producing in the US.
I think COVID was a wake-up call, right? Like
Mm,
then most of the companies went to vertical integration or like tried to they follow nearshoring, like bringing supply to neighboring like close countries,
mm,
so we can get the materials faster and there's less disruption. So I
right.
think I I don't have much experience in supply chain, but from what I see, like most of the issues are improved.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. So you mentioned something interesting. I think that leads me to my next question. There is vertical integration, and then there is outsourcing and getting things done from other companies like
Yeah, and
suppliers. So what is better? What is the right way to go about it?
I
So
think I
I
think
can take. Uh, Sorry, go ahead, Thisath.
yeah, Bobby, go ahead.
I was
So,
gonna
Bob,
say I could speak
before you
on
go there,
that briefly.
Uh-huh.
I
yeah,
think it's a constant balance of Uh, it depends on your industry and the company and the situation, but you have to constantly be evaluating that make buy decision. So
Mm.
vertical integration is great to a point because you have more control over your supply chain, but at the same time you're not diversified either. So, sometimes your plan B goes away. And so I think you have to constantly be evaluating that make buy decision. For example, do we have the manpower? Do we have the capacity to build in-house? Do we have that know-how? If not, are we able to vertically integrate to be able to gain that knowledge? And so, for example, the company I work at, we're constantly looking at, say, for example, a machine shop. If there's a niche product that we typically outsource and we're having problems, and in the supply chain there's only one or two key suppliers you can get that product from, then there's inherently some supply chain risk in that. So
Right.
are we able to gain the IP? Are we able to make it in-house? Can we vertically integrate and purchase that machine shop? And so that's just part of that make buy process that you have to constantly be evaluating on a case by case
And
basis.
also you get a price cost advantage. Like when negotiating prices, you can negotiate well. Like you have more power when you have a secondary source like in-house
No,
option
100%.
to go for.
So in my role right now, field services, it's just we're not really depending on supply chain in the sense that we really will work with hand tools and all the supplies should be ready when we arrive to do our work.
Mm.
Of course, there's always the customer may have delays and due to the supply chains, and we just delay our initial startup date. However, previous to this, I work as a project manager for the equipment side of the same company I work on. In that side, I was the supplier. I was the supply
Mm.
chain, and
Interesting.
I did get to see, get the feedback of how critical we were when we were late or when there were some mistakes, because we were the supply chain and how important that it meant to the customer that we deliver on time and the things we had to do to make sure we accomplished that. For example, one was that um, for one project, it was overseas. We actually ended up splitting, the fabrication of the equipment between three different sites, India, US, and Italy, and
Mm.
air shipping it all to the customer. And this was during COVID when,
Oh,
everything was behind.
wow.
But we learned a lot, leveraging other manufacturing areas. Um,
Interesting. Okay. So my next question to you guys, supplier quality. So let's say we've outsourced a portion of our manufacturing. How important is supplier quality? What can we do to do supplier quality checks? What is the right way to go about supplier quality?
Supply quality is really important, especially like in our industry with automated machines.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's critical that we maintain good quality. Otherwise, we run into issues like uh, we have seen a lot of issues in the past uh,
Mm.
due to supply quality. So it plays a critical role.
Interesting. No, 100%. I think if you get a bad batch of products, it can really stop. I think in any industry, right, it can really stop your manufacturing assembly line or even just your work in
Yeah, with the
general.
like precision we use in automation, it
Mm-hmm.
really affects. Uh,
100%.
yeah.
No, 100%. I've personally seen that a lot in my industry too. I think supplier quality plays a major role. We have to assess wet first that the supplier has the capacity, and then they're able to meet the quality requirements that the customer is asking for. Interesting. Anybody else want to take on supplier quality?
um,
I
Oh, yeah. So in my line of work, we do have suppliers or subcontractors, and
Hmm.
but it's very important the quality of subcontractors when we're in turnaround and we're the critical path.
Right.
Making sure we subcontract uh, someone that's not going to delay us,
Yes.
somebody that's going to provide a quality job
Yep.
and not get in the way is extremely, extremely critical. It's just something we cannot, in my line of work, try to save some few dollars just to
Right.
uh, hire a cheaper supplier or subcontractor.
100%.
And
100%.
with that, right? I mean, to Thisath and Polo's point of supply quality, being a very important part of our manufacturing process. And this could be more of a question or discussion as well. Like, how well do you think we need to establish um, incoming inspection from our supplier side to
Mm.
make sure that everything is inspected? Because if we can't be inspecting every inch and every square feet of material that we get, right? So
Right.
is there a better methodology that we could do to make sure that one, we're efficient and making sure that whatever parts or materials we order are in spec,
Right.
they are, meeting our requirements in our side too. So I guess it's more of a question to the team.
Well, I feel like maybe random sampling is always a way to do it, right? You pick a number, say you get a new batch, you randomly go pick 10 samples out of it, whatever your sample size is going to be, and then just getting a feel for it. Because if those samples are good, the odds that the rest of the product is good is high too. But if even if one of those 10 or a couple of those 10 is bad, then I would really question the quality of the entire batch.
And also, like, I have worked with commissioning machines, like
Mm,
brand new processes, brand new machines. So something like this, something we are looking at is, can the supplier maintain the quality specifications uh, we are looking for, and do we
mm,
have to do additional modifications for equipment to accommodate those tolerances? So
mm,
those are things like, especially during like commissioning stage of
mm-hmm,
machines, that's
mm-hmm.
something we do. Like, we have to be really careful about how we change, like communicate with the vendors and change the specifications to
Right.
maintain the tolerances needed.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So my next question would then be, I want to touch on new product introduction, right? I guess what is the right way to go about it? I mean, we can start with how important new product introduction is and what is the right way to do it. Bobby, you mentioned you work a lot with new product development and things like that, right? What is your take on that?
Thank you for the question, Siva. So the take that our company's taken is kind of to be constantly evolving, constantly coming out with new products. So, for example, historically in the past, we've come out with a new clean sheet program every, say, 10 years, and the block points have been pretty effective. And so I think when you're coming out with a new product, you have to have a really good understanding of what it is the customer wants.
Mm,
So what we do is we put customer advisory boards together. We meet with various customers, and while these meetings are taking place, it's also cross-functional. So we have folks from supply chain, engineering, marketing in these meetings to sit in and listen and gather that feedback and take it back to their teams. And
right.
so you have to have a standard process. So this is where
Mm,
it goes back to the lean and the continuous improvement discussions. You have to have a standardized process of releasing new products.
right.
You have to, and at the same time, you need to protect your intellectual property.
Mm,
So if you're coming out with a new product with new technology, for example, make sure your contracts are in place, make sure you have NDAs if they're applicable, because you don't want to spend all those resources, time, effort, and money,
yep.
and in the end, one of your competitors steals your information, and so that's a big risk to the company and the integrity of your company. So you have to be smart about how you do it.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. I've also seen if NPI, if it's not done well, it can really break you, right? Because you would have spent a lot of time doing R&D and things like that. But if you're not making sure the product has a good rollout, the first few months or the first few phases are going to be very, very difficult. Then you're just changing everything, right? Multiple ECRs going through and things like that. So I feel like across the different manufacturing companies that I worked for, NPI has played a major role in what we do. So how about you, Arvind? Do you guys have a lot of NPI rollouts happening in your industry, or is it not as common?
No, it is pretty common, right? And
Mm-hmm.
going back to questions on the importance of new product, I think as a company we need to consistently meet our customer expectations, right? We
Mm.
need to find out, what's the new trend. And I think this goes to um all areas, have it be automotive, aviation, or refineries. I
Yeah,
think there's always going to be one, there's going to be change in technology.
yeah,
So we're always looking to increase what can we do better for our customers, and two, what are our competitors doing, or if there are no competitors, what are new
right.
expectations for customers, right? So we want to consistently meet that. And back to Bobby's point and your point on that, it's important to have a cross-functional team involved.
Mm-hmm.
Everything starts with a pen and a paper and an idea, right? And
Yeah,
then it skates down to our design team, our engineering team, our lean team, sales team, because I think what also happens, part of that is the sales team understanding how much revenue is this going to be impacting to the
mm-hmm.
organization. And based on that, we can justify saying, hey, this is how much resources we're going to allocate for this project because from a theoretical standpoint, this is how much profit we're expecting to see, for example, in the next 5 years in this new product, and it being a new product, a new competitor, and stuff like that, right? So that's when it cascades down, moving on to the design team, if it's a machine, if it's setting up assembly lines, the lean team being involved in understanding what are the mechanics of the assembly line is going to be, the cycle time, the takt time, what is it going to take, how many operators are we're going to need, and and all that stuff, and then that's all going to come onto our balance sheet at the end, right? Because that's what we want to show at the end of the day before we start a project, right? So this is going to be our cost in the next 5 years for our operator. At the end, it's all going to come down to cost of goods sold, right? So cost of goods sold is going to include our operator, direct labor, indirect overhead that we're going to be allocating resources for this project, right? And the material costs and all that we're going to be accounting for. And
Right.
based on that, we're going to target, in that case, this is how much we're going to sell this for. And then we can establish profit margin and all that. So it's definitely a structured process, step by step. But again, it all starts with a pen and paper, cascading down to each and every department. But it's so important to have each and every department involved. Otherwise, to your point, it will be a domino effect if people are not involved. So
That is really good. That's really smart. I love what both of you guys said. I think you guys highlighted that it's extremely important to stay ahead, but it's very, very crucial that we have the right people involved in this whole process because it can totally make you or break you. Perfect. So as we go closer to the end of our session, something that I've really been thinking about lately, and I don't think I have the answer to that, but maybe you guys have some insights or perspectives on it. Operations overall, or manufacturing, whatever, right? Is AI changing or disrupting this industry? What are your thoughts on it? Do you want to take on it, Thisath?
Yeah, I think AI plays a huge role in uh, in a in a in a manufacturing environment.
Mm-hmm.
Like so, for instance, like you're maintaining automated assembly line
Mm-hmm.
or manufacturing process. You you want to monitor, like you want to maintain that equipment at a good standard to make quality parts. So what you can involve is like you can get really data points from servos, servo
Right.
temperatures, torque levels,
Yeah.
a lot of things.
Right.
So some we have
Mm.
like built-in softwares, and we built data analytic uh, tools to monitor this and
Right.
let maintenance teams know like what's wrong with the machine. So this helps the uptime of machines.
Right.
And also in the design process, AI plays a big role. Like it, it can, like for instance, like you're doing a casting of a certain part. You want to uh, see how fluid flow when you are casting a certain part. So we have computational fluid dynamics, but with AI, there are more variables you can add to better visualize how to make a certain part.
Right. No, that makes sense. So is it fair to say, I mean, it starts with IoT, right? And then just making better decisions from all the data that we're collecting, and then that at the end is going to help AI start making decisions on its own.
So I think, I mean, the process sometimes we are doing is we collect data, we analyze it, we categorize it, then we can correlate that to a certain output. That's the minimal. But in the future, what we are going to is taking all the data, like a lot of data streams, and we are sending it to an AI model.
Right.
The AI model will relate to past things that happen to the machine. Then using the signals, it will correlate.
Right.
Okay, this is this. This
Yep.
motor temperature is too high, or the
Makes
torque
sense.
is too high. It's probably going down in 7 days.
Makes
So
sense.
it'll create something to the maintenance team or whatever, like team to get on it, schedule the maintenance on the
Right.
machine.
No, actually, that's very smart. No, that is very true. That's very true. I think from a machine maintenance standpoint, it's going to play a huge impact, and it's completely going to disrupt uh, how we look at it. It's probably going to lead to more uptime, so which is a good thing. Um, Bobby, how about supply chain? Um, will AI be able to help you get things done faster in the supply chain world, or is it not really going to impact you guys just yet?
So I think AI can be used quite a bit in supply chain, especially in the planning phases. For example, it can help aggregate a large set of data. It's great for brainstorming. For example, it can help you put a business case together, evaluate the competition, and just gather all that data. Also, another way AI can be used is quality control. You can, for example, quality is very important in aviation.
Right.
Lives are at stake. The
Right.
company's reputation is at stake, and
Mm.
so AI can be used to evaluate parts, make sure they're in spec. And it just takes the human factor and some of the risk out of that evaluation process just to make sure that you're putting the best quality product out there
Makes
for the
sense.
customer.
Makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Would you guys concur, Polo and Arvind, because you guys were speaking a little bit about how AI can improve quality and safety as well, right? So is that going to play a key role in your industry and shaping your industry?
Absolutely, right? So adding on to what Thisath said earlier, I think a huge part of that is also going to be increased accuracy in the job that we do. That's going to play an integral role. And for me, it's three things where AI is going to impact manufacturing, right? Accuracy, quality, and safety. And 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 there's always the question, right? Is AI going to change the role of manufacturing, say, in the next 10 years? Absolutely. But there are going to be aspects of it that it's going to majorly impact. There's going to be, for example, repeatable tasks, as I mentioned earlier. Those tasks with those nature will definitely be impacted, right? And then when we talk about, do we think that current jobs that operator performs are going to be eliminated? Is there going to be reduced, employees within the company, or questions surrounding that? My opinion is no. Right? There's going to be a shift in focus, right? There's
Mm.
going to be more other aspects of manufacturing are going to be more in demand. But I don't personally think jobs are going to be eliminated due to the involvement of AI. If anything,
100%.
we're going to be better off in the forms of, again, accuracy, quality, and safety. There's going to be shift
Yeah.
in the labor focus. There's going to be
Mm-hmm.
more opportunities.
Right.
Uh, that's my take on it.
Right. No, it's very interesting. So, Arvind, you may be able to relate this more than anybody. So, in any daily management board, we have safety, quality, delivery, cost, man, and sometimes in some instances, machine. So now when we're speaking about this, what I kind of understood is that AI is going to support safety, quality, and then the machine aspect of things. I think from a and maybe even a cost, maybe not cost just yet, but 100%, I think it's going to help you make smarter decisions. But the delivery piece and the man piece are still going to be there. Seems like it's not going away, at least not right now.
Absolutely. And that brings my point on culture, right? When we're talking about increased delivery and to your point, SQDCP, the people part of it, when we talk about, because people mainly focus on attrition rate,
Mm,
absenteeism within the company and stuff like that. When we're talking about that, that's kind of where the culture piece of the company comes in and the environment. In
right.
general, people are happy and they're learning with the job that they're doing,
Yep.
that increases the tendency of them staying with the company compared to if they're not happy or if they feel like they're not learning. And that's why I think human involvement always has to be there to drive and sustain the culture of lean or the process of learning something. So
Yeah.
absolutely to your point, the delivery and people piece of it, which I think is, in my opinion, safety first, absolutely.
Yep.
But biggest asset of every company is not the $1 million machines that you have or the technology that runs your machine. It's the people that come in every day and run the show for you. The people on
Yep.
the floor, right?
Yep.
Those are the biggest asset in every company's. And in order to make sure that they feel supported and they're learning and their voice is being heard, that's where the importance of lean culture being established comes in. And that's where I think the people piece and a human being involved in that process is integral. So
Makes sense. Oh, that is that is fantastic. Jobs are not going anywhere. If at all anything, we just have to upskill ourselves a little bit. I love that perspective. So, last question. You guys know we're all in different roles: supply chain, project management, lean, manufacturing, equipment engineering, things like that. So let's say a new graduate is coming out. He's maybe finished engineering, I mean, industrial engineering or manufacturing or whatever, or supply chain, something. Would you guys recommend they take up a role similar to yours? Not industry specific, but just role specific. Is that role still going to be relevant for the next 20 years? And do they have a future? Is it will it be a good role for them to take up? Um, we could go with, yeah, Arvind.
personally, Siva, great question. But I personally don't think that should be the key driver in deciding what path you should take.
Hmm.
Again, personally, right? If I was to graduate right now and think about jobs that I want, I'm not going to consider what's going to happen 5, 10 years from now. Important for me to keep in mind, right? But what's important for me to understand is uh, one, what I'm going to enjoy doing every day, because it's something I'm probably going to do for the rest of my life. Maybe not the same position, but probably the same path, right? If I choose lean or supply chain or sales or whatever that I decide. So I think it's important to understand what drives you first and what you're interested in learning, right? Which area or which career pathway. Forget about if AI is going to take this, that we can talk about later. Because again, to my point, I don't think jobs are going to be lost. Using lean as an example, right? There was a lot of discussions on can lean be automated or can AI take over this? Again, there will be an AI aspect that's going to help lean, but there will be a shift in where we can better support lean, but jobs will not go, right? So I think it's important for people to understand what drives you and what are you interested in learning? Are you more technical? Are you more interested in driving organizational changes, culture, or do you prefer handling projects? And I think the best way to do that, for me especially, was having an internship. or on the floor experience. If you are really interested in manufacturing and you don't know what you want to be, you can start off at as a simple role. It does not have to be even an intern, right? You can start off as a machinist, for example, and you understand, what it takes to be a machinist, or understand what does it take to run a business. Because for me, when I first started my role, I was actually involved in automation. I think
Right.
back in the days, I started. One of my first internship was in an automation company. Although I loved automation, I felt like, and that's the thing, right? When I first graduated or close to graduation, I felt like, oh my God, automation is the best thing, which it is, but it's probably not my best interest, right? So
Right.
that's when I'm more interested in driving organizational culture and continuously improving. And that's when I heard about, there's also a program called, so you might never even know what you love until you join a company and you start learning what drives your company, right? So
Makes
I don't know
sense.
if I answered your question, but I
No,
think
100%.
for them to understand what they want to do and what drives them every day. So
Follow your heart. That's what you're saying. So follow your heart, start
yeah,
small.
exactly.
I love that. I didn't see that coming from you, man. You're deep. Let's go. What about you guys? Some closing thoughts or some advice to new grads? Maybe Paul, do you want to take on it?
Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of I had a similar feelings to Arvind. When I first graduated, I didn't know I was going to end up in this role. I didn't even know I was going to end up working. I thought I was going to end up working in the aircraft industry.
Hmm.
Now I travel the world, middle of nowhere, fixing, refineries and stuff like that. But it's similar to Arvind. I just went in. I was always been curious to learn more and keep expanding my skill set. And I kind of ended up loving what I did, just because I get to learn new things. Every project is new. And there's a lot of decision making going on. And I think, if you're worried about your future and if AI is going to take it, I think it's if you have the skill set, you
Right.
kind of become invaluable. Because again, I work with a lot of tradesmen,
Right.
and I can tell you it'll be a very long time before there's AI or automation taking their jobs.
That's fantastic. That's very well put. Thank you. How about
Yeah, I
you,
think it's
Thisath? Yeah.
yeah, I think it's the something you like and something uh, you want to spend time on. That's something you have to work on. But in the with the AI coming in, I think people should focus on more creative stuff
Mm.
like engineering or anything like and all anything that is creative. It can also be music.
Right.
Uh, that involves creativity,
Mm-hmm.
that's the place the future job market gonna be.
Interesting.
Uh,
Yep. So creativity, doing something very different, things
yeah,
that machine can do immediately. Okay.
yeah, there'll be I believe like in the future there'll be a niche market for like
Mm-hmm.
creative things. Like it can be art,
Mm.
music. I don't think you can do art with AI, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a certain level of creativity people have that people can use AI to push like create these drawing. Like if it is art, uh, people can use the imagination to make a next level art, like something
Makes
different.
sense. That makes
So
sense.
if you take engineering, there'll be things people will be able to do that we can't do right now. Like we can't directly speak to a computer and say, okay, this is what I need. But in the future, like I'm programming uh, machines and all, but I'll be able to directly convey what I want
Mm.
with less of a language barrier.
Right. No, makes sense. That is fantastic. So do creative things, something very different. Very nice. What about you, Bobby? What are your suggestions or advice to new grads?
So first I'll start with anybody that's considering a role in supply chain. I think just based on what happened during COVID, COVID put a spotlight on supply chain in general and just how
Mm.
important it is to companies. I think before COVID, it was most people didn't know what supply chain was or how integral they were to the company running efficiently. But during COVID, it became a household term. Uh, Families would sit around the table and, for example, their kids would question, well, why can't we buy toilet paper at the grocery store? Why do we not have this? Why do we not have that? Why do we not have masks, for example? And so it made it more of a household term.
Yeah.
And so the great thing about supply chain is it takes a lot of different types of people to work in supply chain. It takes technical people. It takes people with people skills, for example. More reserved people can work in supply chain, and they have their hand in the whole business. And that's the fun thing about supply chain is they're collaborating with the entire company,
Right.
engineering, marketing, quality, sales, operations. And so it's a great way to collaborate with different uh functions of the company, but it's also a great segue if you don't know what you want to do. Just because you do work with those different departments, you get to network, you get to work with these different departments and understand how they support each other within the business. Now, just general advice for new graduates, I would say ask a lot of questions, network, and don't be afraid to take on those challenging projects that nobody else wants to be a part of. Because
Yeah.
there's always a challenge within the company. There's always an opportunity to fix something, and you know what? It's a great learning opportunity. During COVID, I was put into a tough supply chain situation where it could have potentially had a very large impact on the success of the company. And I was able to find a way to manage that during COVID,
Right.
and it was great. I learned a lot of lessons from it. I met a lot of internal and external contacts. And so I would say just don't be afraid to take on that new challenge.
Makes sense. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. So even for me, so I've tried to answer this question too. I think I've always been concerned about this, and I speak to maybe Arvind about this a lot, and I also brought it up in my previous episode with our past leader Eric. Lean may change. I don't know. AI may have an impact, but I think we're gonna figure it out. And I concur with what Arvind was saying. The most important part is following your heart. If you really like something, you're going to figure it out. I think we're all young, and even for the guys that are just graduating, there's nothing to be worried about. If anything, we should be welcoming all of this change, just upskilling ourselves constantly, thinking out of the box, like the Thisath said, just taking the chance, like Bobby said, and just keep going at it.
Yeah, I think like you don't have to have a degree. Like that's what I think.
Mm.
You just have to have the drive
Yep.
to learn, and also like so if there's AI, you have all the knowledge in the world. You just
Right.
need the ability to think and manipulate like your
Exactly.
thoughts, and you can do anything you want.
I'm gonna challenge that.
But
I'm gonna challenge this last point there. No, I agree with certain aspects of it. Not all jobs, like for example, a programming job may not exactly require a computer science degree, right? Because now, to Thisath's point, I know we talked about this. You can learn an entire language within 6 weeks online, and that's what it may all take, and you being good at it and being able to learn, updates and stuff like that. But I think the important piece of college that I think a lot of people may miss is that college does not necessarily teach you the calculus or the chemistry or the physics that none of us use today, or maybe some of us may do. But how it helps us is number one, at least for me, I think college changed me as far as time management, right? I learned how to better manage my time, right? I learned how to better, from a time management standpoint, achieve project deadlines and be able to work under pressure. And most importantly, network and get to know people around you, and how do you work with people around you within a short period of time, because how many of us have been in classes and you find out, all right, this is my new group that I'm going to be working on the next 3 months, and you guys got to get this project done, right? So that's what it teaches us. How do we get,
Makes sense.
in
Yeah.
layman's term, get shit done with new people that you meet, right?
Right.
So I think that's, other than the knowledge part that Thisath speaking of, I think what college offered me more is time management, connecting with people and teamwork is a huge part of it. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yep. So
Ar-
yeah, go ahead.
I'll make it quick, but Arvind, I appreciate you bringing up the importance of the soft skills and learning those in college. During one of my internships, one of my mentors, he mentioned that uh, a college degree, all it does is get you interviews you wouldn't have otherwise gotten. It's nothing's guaranteed, so you have to really take advantage of that situation and and own it. And so that's where it comes into play of really building your soft skills and being able to run with it and take risks. So Arvin, I appreciate you bringing up that topic.
Can I say something real quick? I think your college degree depends on what you want to do. Uh, just as an example, my same team, somebody's performing a critical lift. I want an engineer with a college degree with input from a crane operator on how to perform that. So it just depends on what you want to do.
100%. I love those different perspectives. I think going to school is great. Clearly, it has its advantages, but even if you didn't, you can still figure it out. I think that's what we all are agreeing upon. If you can go to school, go to school. Even if you can't, it's okay. There are other ways you can learn all the good stuff. Perfect. I think that brings us to a very nice conclusion. Good point. I really appreciate all of your time. I know this is a weekend, it's a Sunday night. Thank you so much for taking time out. Thank you for giving a lot of these perspectives. I just want to, really truly believe that maybe someone's listening to us, watching us, and they've got some good takeaways, and this helps them in their career in one way or the other. Thank you, guys.
thank you, Siva.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
you.
Siva. Thank you, everyone.
And good to
Thank you.
catch up with you guys too.